So now you're working for, you said your friend.
Yep.
And you're doing this on eBay. And then at what point did you say, I want to start like an Amazon business? Did you go from working from him and then you said, you know what, I'm going to try reselling myself?
So this kid, him and his brother, they had an optical store, and they had right next door a beauty salon that they owned. They had a e-commerce business selling eyewear, selling eyeglasses, and at the same time that I was doing eBay for him, he was also building a Amazon US business. He was selling beauty supplies and beauty products and eyewear on Amazon in the US, and it was growing really fast, and he was building a nice little business there. And he was my boy, and I was following him around, and we were doing shit together, and I was seeing the nice business that he was building on Amazon, and it was growing really fast and scaling and all of that kind of stuff. And I was just picking up what I could from him, or he was sharing about the business. He like kind of put me on in a sense where he explained to me, I didn't even know what selling on Amazon was, but he kind of broke down the concept. Here's a listing. Here's what you sell it for. Here's the FBA calculator. You enter the ASIN, you enter the price. Here's what you're left with. You sell it for 20, you're left with 15. We get it for 12. It's $3 profit. He broke that down to me, you know? At the same time, he had explained, and I was hungry, man. Like I didn't have any social life. I was just looking to work and make money at this point in my life. And he explained the FBA opportunity to me. And he said, I want to do this in Europe, in the UK. They just launched FBA in the UK. I want to do it. I'm a little busy. Larry, you're my good boy. I know that you're looking for extra work. You're down and out. So you know what? I'm going to put up all the funds. You have access to all of my products. You go figure out Amazon UK. You tell me what to buy, whatever you want to buy, we'll buy it, we'll send it in. You do it after hours, and I'm going to give you a third of the profits. So it was him, his brother, me. They owned the business, but I was monthly, like whatever the profits would be, they would cut me a check for that. So then for many months, nights and weekends after the regular customer service gig, I would just spend nights and weekends researching products manually, figuring out what works, building a business. And sending shit to the UK where we were fucking killing it. And I would say in anywhere from, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 months, it quickly became a $1 million business. At first, I was hustling nights and weekends every chance I get, building the business. And at the end of every month, I would give him kind of like an invoice. Here are our sales. Here are our profits. We made 20 grand this month. I'm owed 7. Give me my 7. And that quickly, very quickly far surpassed the $400 or $500 I was making at customer service. So I was like, you know, it makes no sense to do this. I'm going to focus on the Amazon business full time. And then I transitioned away from the regular 9-to-5 job and just was doing the running his Amazon UK business for the first 2 years that I was in the business.
And that totally makes sense because I remember following your social media. So for those of you at home, I've been following Watch Me Amazon. He's been a huge inspiration for me to start my business as well as a handful of others. But I would see your posts on social media, and I would see you post. I think you were the only reseller that would post your U.S. numbers, and you would post UK. So I knew you had a footprint in the UK, and now it totally makes sense on how your footprint began in the UK. I don't really see a lot of other people selling in different parts or different marketplaces on Amazon, and if they do, they don't really post it as much as you would post it. So that's pretty interesting. Any other marketplaces that you find interesting on Amazon, or you just stick with US and the UK right now?
I mean, I find all of them interesting. So we were sending products into the UK, but via the UK, we would also send products into all of the other European marketplaces. So we would sell in Germany, France, Italy, Spain, UK. Those were the 5 main ones. And then they later introduced a program where they would Amazon would just take your shit and list it all across Europe in all of the different countries, like in what is now the European Union. And it was a unique and interesting opportunity in a sense where we were just shipping stuff to the UK and Amazon was taking it and spreading it out in all of these different marketplaces. So it was really dope. And it was also a play on the currency at the time, which when I started, because we were buying stuff in dollars here domestically, and we were selling it in the UK for pounds, and the currency conversion at that time was almost 2 to 1. It was like 1.75 to dollars to the pound. So we were doing things like buying a $5 bottle of shampoo that maybe on Amazon US would sell for $10, but in Europe, because there was far less competition, far less of these products available, it was selling for 25, 30, pounds. So that in itself is dope. But when you take the 30 pounds and you multiply it by 1.75, you're selling $5 shit for $40, $50, bro. It was like printing money. It was wild.
That's such a crazy gameplay. I would never think to play it on the currency, because back in the day, I mean, I can remember as far back as the pound being $1.56 to $1. You're saying it was almost
when
2 to 1.
It was 175, 176 was like the peak.
Unbelievable. Now, on the flip side of that, though, because I know there's going to be some people that are going to be watching and be like, well, what about the shipping to Europe? Didn't that compensate for the profits and all that? So, like, how did you manage to keep your shipping costs low at that point to still make a good profit?
So they were low, relatively speaking. They weren't low compared to the U.S., where it costs virtually nothing to ship per pound, but we were doing bulk, so you can send like 1 or 2 boxes to Europe. That doesn't make sense, but we were selling pallets. We were shipping it on air cargo. Our cost was about $1 per pound. So expensive relative to the US, but in general, $1 per pound when your margins are fucking 300% on these products. It was legit, right. like printing money. Like there's a 75% profit right from the start if you break even just based over the currency conversion. Now, that being said, you are at the mercy of the currency. So there was a time where at the high, the peak was like 1.76 to $1. And there was a time not too long ago, right around COVID times, where the pound went to shit and it was almost at parity with the dollar. It was like 1.1. So whatever catalog you had, whatever group of products that made sense when the pound was at 1.76, when it's at 1.1, you're going to lose half of that catalog. 3/4 of that catalog might no longer make sense because that currency conversion isn't there. So as the spread gets bigger, you have more stuff to buy. As it gets lower, you have less stuff to buy. But since then, and since COVID, there's been a lot of changes. Like after COVID, shipping to the UK doubled. The pound went to shit. Great Britain did something called Brexit, where they cut themselves off from the rest of Europe. So shipping to the rest of Europe and to those marketplaces, that kind of cut off. And in the early stage of my Amazon business, I was probably 80% Europe, 20% US.
Wow.
And today it's completely flipped. And since 2020, we had to double down on our US business and really put most of the focus here because the European business did kind of go to shit.
So when you say we, are you still working with the same group of people from back then?
I have different partners right now. So what happened with that original partner is they eventually tried to fuck me over. I think they got a little tight so anyone who's listening to this would know, if you have an Amazon business and you're making money, you're kind of making money on paper. So you'll see you invested X amount of dollars and you made whatever, 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand this year, but you're not pulling that 100 grand out. If you want the business to grow, you made 100 grand on paper, but you put it back into the business. You didn't pay yourself anything because you want to buy more products. You want it to grow. Next year, you make a lot of money, but you're not pulling it out. You're putting it back into the business so you can buy more products. So that is from a owner's standpoint. You're making a lot of money, but you're reinvesting it into the business because you want the business to grow. I was not an owner in the business. I was getting a straight commission. So every month I was coming to them, here's my invoice for the month. You owe me 7 grand, you owe me 20 grand, you owe me 35 grand, you owe me 40 grand.
You're always at the mercy of them.
I think they
Goodwill,
just got,
right?
they got a little tight. They did make that money on paper. If they were giving me 20 grand, the business made 60, but they're not taking 60 out. They just keep reinvesting it into the business. And they got, or he rather got a little tight and a little upset that, I have to give this guy so much money, but I'm not taking money even though I made it. So then they started playing games. We no longer want to give you a third. We want to give you 25%. They just started doing like shady shit, and eventually it strained the relationship. And eventually I had enough and I had to step away from the business and I had to quit. So I found myself with a lot of knowledge how to build my Amazon business or how to build a Amazon business. I turned my financial situation around, not where I had a lot of money, but when I went into this, I was down and out and I had probably 6 figures in debt. I was borrowing money from my friends. I owed back taxes. I was able to pay all of that shit off. But then when I left the business, I also was kind of like at square one. I didn't have a lot of money. I paid off my debts and I was doing the right thing and I was mentally focused and I loved selling on Amazon and all of that kind of stuff. But I found myself in 2014 in a position where I have knowledge. I'm now out on my own. I want to start my own Amazon business, but I don't really have any money to do so, and that's kind of what you need to do so at scale. You need a good chunk of loot. So another one of my good childhood friends, he had money to invest. He wanted to put up the funds, but he also wanted to be a 50-50 working partner. When he would come into the business, not just put up the money, he would put up the money and he would sit besides me and he would work as a full-time gig as his number one priority. So from 2011 to 2013, 2014-ish, I was working for someone else doing that thing. In 2014 is finally when I branched out on my own with the help of another one of my friends and their capital investment. And that's when I started my own business. This was the first Amazon business that I actually owned equity in, was my own. And that's the business I have still to date. So to answer your question, I'm not in business with the original guy. We don't even talk anymore, as sad as that is. But the current business is still with my current and existing partners.